So I've been doing some thinking about Necromancy and its effect on the game, and I even made a post saying it makes me feel like there's no point into playing the other combat styles. And that's true, but I want to take a minute here while I'm mining to kind of talk about what exactly I am feeling about Necromancy and my thoughts about it, and why I actually think the complete just everything about Necromancy, not everything, but a lot of what Necromancy has done is, I feel like, very good for RuneScape 3 as a whole, especially for new players coming in. So to kind of talk about it for a second, I want to start from the beginning and talk about my feelings on Necromancy as an introduction. Overall, as a brand new player to RuneScape 3, I started about 10 months ago, back in November of last year, late of October, but basically November of 2022. And overall, I actually really like it. It's really good as a new player because it's very easy to learn bosses with it. The primary reason for this is kind of twofold. First off, the tank gear with Necromancy is very tanky, right? You are able to effectively have a very good cushion, especially when you combo it with the Spectral Ghost. It allows you to focus on learning the mechanics and almost entirely removes the need to emergency eat a lot unless you mess up a mechanic. And in which case, it's not like you're dead most of the time. It's usually just, hey, I now need to actually eat something just to get yourself back up to a safe place, and then you can go and your ghost will heal you up for the most part all the way back up. At least that's been my case with the Raxor. The good part about this, though, and a lot of people are saying, oh, so you basically can cheese it. Yes and no. You still want to learn the boss, and it's just a great way for me as a new player to learn these bosses. I have been having a lot of fun at Araxor, and honestly, it's been making me better. I've been understanding mechanics that I previously thought I understood and understanding the way they work. I've also been understanding how exactly Araxor works in its entirety, and the only reason I'm using Araxor is because that's what I've been grinding lately, so sorry. But it's been allowing me to understand the intricacies of the boss a little bit better, knowing exactly why some phases you want to push and some phases maybe you don't. I've been understanding exactly just kind of what the ramifications are, if any, of rushing to the final phase of Raxor without really clearing any of the mechanics and knowing, okay, so that's what happens. I'm able to properly understand in basically a safe and understandable way. Now, the second reason that Necromancy is super good for learning is the damage output. The damage output of Necromancy is very high for very little, for very little cost, or very little just reason to think is a good way to put it. You're able to output crazy damage just by doing a very simple rotation. You use your basic abilities, keeping Summon and Command Skeleton, Conjure and Command Skeleton as your top priority, having Touch of Death going as your second thing to allow you to, pump out a little bit of adrenaline gain and get some Necrosis stacks, and then finally Soul Sap to generate some residual souls, and again, some adrenaline. These three things, as long as your Revolution is using them, you can basically use whatever you want and you'll be good. You can use your Soul Strike, Volley of Souls ability at 2 stacks or 3 stacks. Yes, using it at more is probably more efficient, but if you actually fat finger it, it's not like you ruined the thing. You can also go and summon your Ghost and then use the Command Ghost ability to increase your damage by like 600 per swing, which is just crazy. 600 per ability / hit, which is just absolutely crazy, and making your kill times go astronomically faster once you start getting used to it. The special attack, which I believe is Death Grasp, is absolutely disgusting and will just output a bunch of damage, and you can use it as your sole Necrosis spender. Yes, you can get more intricate with all these abilities and get a little bit more, and kind of weave certain other things like knowing when to use Finger. If I learned how to use Finger of Death properly, knowing when to transform and stuff like that would probably increase my DPS by a substantial amount again. But honestly, just utilizing the Command Ghost ability, Haunt, and then utilizing whatever spenders you want will just can get you a 3 to 4 minute kill time on Araxor. Very simple, and just giving you a good amount of damage. And this is my primary point. You have a simple way of doing combat that allows you to play the game very well. Now, here comes the kind of problem that I also don't think it is a problem at the same time. The problem is that right now, Necromancy is better than other combat styles. There's no if, and, or but about it. It just is. But at the same time, I don't think this is necessarily an issue. All this does is give Jagex something to work with. They can be like, okay, do we want Necromancy to do less damage, or do we just want the other combat styles to get up to date? I think that's the biggest thing that Jagex has to currently discuss on what they're doing, on their end. And honestly, either way, I think it's fine, because the other combat styles are most likely going to be reworked, and they are going to have their 120 reworks coming. So I think as a whole, it's just good things. And yes, I know all the other combat styles weaponry is dropping down in price, but this is kind of where I think on the other end, it's also good. As a newer player, I now have a reason to buy these items. I can get them in preparation for knowing that they are going to get reworked, that they are going to get their 30k hit caps, or they're going to get their 30k hit caps instead of 10k or whatever that currently is, right? There are a lot of things that these styles are going to get that in the future that are just inevitable, and it just allows for a lot more room for Jagex to grow. They also have a nice baseline kind of template to work with now, knowing what Necromancy has. They can go and decide, okay, do we want to do this but a little bit more complex, or do you want to just have this? And I think that's good. They now have a template that works and is good and that people love, but now they can go and expand on that with the other combat styles, and I think that's great. I think that's very good, and I think that this is just an all-around good thing for RuneScape 3 as a whole, and I think it's a good direction. The only thing, like I said, that I have a concern about is that in the here and now, what's the point of using and learning these other combat styles? And this is kind of my main concern. I know it's very bad to say, but honestly, as a newer player, I want to try these other combat styles, but at the same time, I don't see a point, because A, they're most likely going to get reworked soon. B, they're going to have their damage numbers increased or hit caps increased, which will potentially change the rotations. And between the reworks as well, the rotations are going to get changed again. So I'm going to get used to using this combat style. Then it's going to get changed in its entirety. And now I'm going to have to learn it again. So not only am I going to learn range, I'm then going to have to learn range again. And it just feels weird, right? It's not weird, but then it's just like, why am I doing this now? Yes, it's simply just playing the waiting game, enjoy Necromancy for the time being, enjoy how strong it is, have some fun, learn the bosses, etc. I get that, but at the same time, it still has this kind of gnawing feeling in the back of my head where this is great for new players, but again, as a new player, I'm still on that kind of, I see this and I'm like, well, I don't want to use these other combat styles. They're inferior, but I still want to level them up. I still want to get the weapons. I still want to get the gear because they have these cool, interesting gearing paths for me as an Iron Man. But what's the point? Because I can just go and get myself full tier 90 in Necromancy with just basically not much effort. I already have tier 90 weaponry. I just need to get myself the tier 90 armor. Or I can skip that entirely and just go straight to Raziel right now without the tier 90 armor, or just wear tier 90 tank armor and then get the best armor and weapons in the game by farming Raziel. And that's kind of my point. It feels almost, and I know it sounds bad, but it really does feel pointless to even look at the other combat styles and bosses unless I'm trying to make money, in which me as an Iron Man, I don't have any reason to make money. So it's just this awkward kind of dynamic with Necromancy right now that I know is going to be fixed in the future. It's just, for now, it just feels weird, and I don't know what to do with myself, because I want to learn all these other combat styles while I'm maxing, but there's no point to me doing that, so I just got to sit here, twiddle my thumbs, and very, very eagerly await and impatiently wait for these reworks that are going to happen, or even at the very least the damage numbers to get boosted, so this way these combat styles can now become better than Necromancy. In my opinion, as a whole, to kind of give a nice little wrap up on something, is I feel like Necromancy is good. I feel like it's overall a nail on the head, but I don't feel like it should be the strongest combat style. I kind of agree with a lot of people when they say this. For me, Necromancy should just be a safe combat style. What I mean by that is it should have its same tankiness and sustainability that it has, but I don't think its damage output should be as good as it is. I think its damage output should be lowered a little bit. Again, this is my opinion. When I can get 3 to 4 minute Araxor kills with basically no effort just by pressing the Haunt button, I think at that point there's something wrong. I think maybe Haunt needs to be decreased, honestly. I think that's my main thing. I think when I was getting previously the 6 to 8 minute kills without using haunt, I think that's about key. It's good damage, but it's nothing crazy. It's something good, but I know I can improve it by getting better at other combat styles. And I think that's really where Necromancy should be. I don't want to say haunt should be removed entirely because I'm sure some people love it, but in my honest opinion, I think haunt should kind of be removed or insanely nerfed. And this is just my take. And obviously my take is very minimal and in a very vacuum space because I've only had the experience of doing Araxor, but for my experience of doing Araxor, it's just crazy strong. I'm able to do Araxor just fine and just chill without haunt. And I think haunt is a good ability, but I think maybe it needs to be reworked entirely or just majorly nerfed. I think the damage increase is great, but I don't think I should be getting an extra 600 damage per freaking ability. That just feels crazy to me. I'm sorry, but that's just insane. I literally can cut my damage time basically almost in half just by pressing the button. It's absolutely insane, and I think it really does need to be nerfed. I think maybe it should be a 1.5 times damage instead of a 2 times damage, or just have a lower cap. I don't know what they want to do, but just lower it. Just need to do something about it and make it weaker, or maybe even change it in its entirety. Maybe capitalize on the Ghost Haunt ability and make it something that goes and puts more on the tankability or survivability of Necromancy and make it like an enhanced Excalibur ability that doesn't actually stack with enhanced Excalibur. I think that would be a great way to put it. Just have it be an enhanced Excalibur that doesn't use enhanced Excalibur. I think that would be the better way to fix it. And you know what? It might already do that, but for all I know, that haunt just increases your damage by a butt ton. I don't know if it has any other secondary effects, I'll be completely honest, but it should just be maybe like a haunt, right? I really think that's what it should be. It should just be a haunt that goes and maybe siphons some, maybe just put it as like a haunt and dot on the enemy, right? It's a dot on the enemy and it's a haunt for you, and then there you go. It's simple as that, right? As it damages the enemy, you get some healing. It increases your sustainability while still providing a nice little damage output on the enemy, and then there you go. As a new player, I now have a button that increases my sustainability and allows me to learn the boss a little bit better, but doesn't absolutely break the game or break my damage by making me go through the roof. That's just my take on Necromancy as a whole, and I kind of do, overall, I do like Necromancy, but like I said, I feel like Haunt's ability output needs to be lowered, and I do feel like the other damage styles need to kind of be brought up to par. Now, that being said, I don't know if maybe with Haunt being reworked entirely or being nerfed insanely, if the combat styles are now going to be just flat out better, right? I mean, I think that's something to kind of be said, right? Maybe with Haunt being nerfed entirely, maybe now the other combat styles are just miles better, and if that's the case, then there you go. That's the solution. Lower Haunt's damage output, the other combat styles are now much better, and now everyone's in a win-win situation. You have Necromancy being a very strong learning combat style, but the other combat styles now have their luxury of being better. Sorry, my pizza's done. Being better. With that being said, my pizza's done. I'm gonna go downstairs. I'm gonna go eat it, and I'll catch you guys in the next Iron Man video. That, as you can obviously tell, I'm working very, very hard on grinding out. I don't want to say exactly what I'm working on, though it might be a little obvious. But at the same time, some people might get kind of caught off guard because it's not as exactly what it looks like, but some people might be able to figure it out. Anyways, catch you guys in the next video.